It was the month of June, and the weather was beautiful. Stuart left school. He was on holiday, but he was not happy. He did not have a motorbike. Stuart was 17 years old. He left school, but he did not start work. All his mates started work immediately, but Stuart did not want to work. He wanted a long holiday, and he needed a motorbike. Stuart lived in Leeds, a big city in the north of England. Leeds is a busy city, full of offices, shops and factories. It's not a good place for a holiday. Martin, a friend of Stuart's, worked in a garage. Martin had a bike for sale. It was a beauty, a Japanese Suzuki. Martin wanted £350 for the bike, but Stuart did not have £350. He didn't have any money. Stuart went and looked at the bike every day. It was a beauty. He wanted to buy it. Where can I find £350? Stuart asked himself. Stuart left the garage and walked back home. His house was in Blenheim Street, near the university. There were lots of old, empty houses in Blenheim Street. The university was one of the biggest in England. The university often bought land and buildings. Most of the old houses in Blenheim Street belonged to the university. Some of these houses had been empty for years. Stuart often searched through them. Sometimes he found old books and gramophone records. One day, he told himself, I'll find something valuable. There was a large house at the corner of Blenheim Street. Its owner, a rich old woman, had died a few days ago. The university bought the house immediately. Now the house was empty. There was wood across the front door, and the windows were broken. Someone looked out of a window. It was a man of about 20. He had long hair and was wearing a headband. He looked strange. He was a squatter. Squatters live in old, empty houses, and they don't pay any rent. The stranger waved to Stuart. He wanted to speak to Stuart. What does he want? Stuart asked himself. Hi. Hello. Like to help me? Okay. Watch this house. How long? Half an hour. Okay. I'm Stuart. My name's Frank. I'll go and get my things. Are you going to squat here, Frank? Yes. Don't let anyone else in. I'll be back soon. Okay. See you. Frank walked off slowly down the street. His head was bent forward, and he was looking down at the pavement. He was about 20, but he looked much older. Frank went round the corner, and Stuart turned towards the house. It looked interesting. The window was low, quite near the ground. The street was empty. Stuart put one leg over the windowsill and looked inside. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. Inside the house, it was dark. Stuart stood for a few moments and waited. Slowly, the inside of the room became clearer. There was a calendar on the wall. Lots of old newspapers were lying around on the floor. There was a mattress against the far wall. It looked new. Stuart looked up and down the street. There was no one around. He quickly climbed into the room. Stuart walked to the middle of the room and kicked away the old newspapers. There was nothing underneath them. There was no carpet, and the floorboards were covered with dirt. Stuart took the calendar down from the wall. It was an old one, 5 years old. No one had changed it for 5 years. Then Stuart remembered. The owner of the house, the old woman, had been ill for a long time. She hadn't got out of her bed for 5 years. The mattress was leaning against the far wall. Stuart went over and looked at it carefully. It was a good mattress. Stuart picked up the mattress and turned it over carefully. There was some stitching along one side, about 10 centimetres long. Stuart held the mattress between his knees and took out a small knife. Stuart cut the stitches carefully and then put his hand in the hole. He felt a bundle of newspapers and pulled it out. He quickly unwrapped it. Inside the bundle of newspapers, there were some banknotes. Suddenly, Stuart heard a voice. It was Frank. "Hey! Stuart! Where are you?" Frank was shouting. Stuart quickly wrapped up the money inside the newspapers. He held the bundle behind his back. "I'm in here, Frank!" he shouted. Frank came up to the window and looked into the room. "What are you doing in there?" Frank asked. "Nothing," replied Stuart. "I'm looking around." Frank climbed into the room and came closer to Stuart. Stuart moved to the wall. He held the bundle of newspapers behind his back. Frank looked round the room. He didn't see Stuart's knife on the floor. "You haven't taken anything, have you?" asked Frank. "I haven't taken anything of yours," replied Stuart. "You've moved this mattress," said Frank. Frank picked up the mattress and turned it over carefully. Then he saw the hole in the side. "You cut this mattress? It was stitched. Is this your knife?" "Yes." "What were you doing?" "Nothing." "You found something." "I didn't." "What's that in your hand?" "Where?" "Behind your back." "Nothing." "You got something." "Some old newspapers." "Hand them over." "They're mine." Stuart remembered the motorbike. He needed the money. He was going to keep it. It was his money, not Frank's. Frank was holding Stuart's knife